What is up, guys? It is Scipio here. Today I was thinking about doing a different kind of video. It's been a while. I don't really feel like playing games and just putting them on this channel. I think I'd do a little branch out and dive into the political spectrum because, I have some opinions about politics, As you'll come to see, I am a little bit of a lefty. I'd call myself a social libertarian, probably a social democrat. And so I'm just going to, just start dismantling all these kind of Griftubers like Steve Crowder, Dave Rubin, and work my way up the ladder, the food chain of these kind of disgusting people. So Steve Crowder unironically thinks that white supremacists and the far left have a lot in common. I really want to see what he has to say because I don't see the correlation at all. White supremacists tend to believe in the ethno-state and fit right in with the capitalist mold, especially with their ideas of modern slavery, and the far left has literally zero of that in their agenda. So let's just dive right into it.
We love our black gingers who watch. But no, I wanted to end it on this. And next week, I believe we have Brian Callen Monday.
Yeah.
And then Tuesday, our celebration of 15 years to flatten the curve. And then I don't know what we have Wednesday and Thursday, but I will be gone Thursday.
Oh.
Because I have to go to the Mayo Clinic. So I don't know what my schedule is like.
Gotta check up on that heart.
Gotta check up on the old ticker. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to next. Thank you guys for coming on. I really do appreciate it. Best place for people to follow you?
Conservative Twins on YouTube.
Conservative Twins.
Yeah.
You mentioned AOC. And I think this is important for people to realize. It's very similar to socialism. If you look at it, far left, they really have a lot in common with actual white supremacists.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I learned this because
So he points out socialism in that little statement right there. I really I don't think Steve understands what socialism is. I don't think he knows that it is the workers owning the means of production, where to produce, what to produce, how much to produce, why they produce, for whom they produce, all those types of questions. That is in and of itself socialism. You can have a socialist company, you can have a socialist neighborhood, you can have a socialist country, albeit. I don't think he understands that you can have a socialist society and not have a socialist government. So just putting that out there, because I have a feeling he is going to say some really dumb shit here in the next couple minutes.
I tweeted this out at one point. I said I couldn't care less if my future daughter, brings home a black guy, as long as he shares our values. I would much rather my white daughter bring home a black man from church than a white guy from the local dive bar.
So what Steve just said is a very common sense thing. Of course, if you're not a racist or a bigot, you'd be okay with your white daughter bringing home a black guy. But notice how he says black guy that, she met from church. Of course he's okay with that because all religions are fundamentally conservative. And so, of course he's going to be cool with that because the black kid is also probably going to be coming from an affluent, family that actually has money. And the white guy at the dive bar, he's 50-50. He could be some gross, commie, Soviet, loving gay guy. Or we could have, alpha Chad black guy who believes in tax evasion, right? This is the image that he's trying to paint right now. And of course, no one has a problem with that. Anybody with non-racist views would totally be cool with their daughter bringing home a black guy.
Mm-hmm. And that made me target numero uno of the white supremacists out there, right? And what they realized they were going to try and do, first they thought I was Jewish, and then they were like, ooh, he's a pretty big Jew. So they realized that I wasn't. So then they they would Photoshop swastikas on me and all these horrible quotes, literally. And Twitter left it up. There was one quote that would say, hang the, word and gas the... Would say horrible stuff, and Twitter's like, oh, it's not a violation. So anyways, I learned at that point, I was like, okay, I'm going to see. I hadn't really had much experience with white supremacists because they very few of them exist.
Then why are they attacking you on the internet? If there's so few of them, why are a bunch of them taking the time to, Photoshop swastikas on you? See, his lackadaisical definition of white supremacy here is, I would really want to hear Steve's definition of white supremacy. It's probably like, don't throw rocks at black people, and don't call black people the N-word, and don't burn crosses in their yard, right? That's his idea of white supremacy. When in reality, like, dog whistling in, like, conservative circles nowadays, like America first, that's just dog whistling for xenophobia and, keep brown people out of our country, even though they are, great for the economy. But his little definition that he's trying to paint here of white supremacy is probably like, the 1950s version of white supremacy, a very, old and outdated. See, he doesn't think a white supremacist is someone who, unironically, thinks that all black people are lazy and are on welfare, and says, like, the N-word. He thinks those are just kind of, edgy guys, right? He doesn't understand that that's the modern form of white supremacy. He doesn't understand that there are, like, businessmen that do business with black people and have black employees and even have black wives, and yet they still despise their race. He unironically thinks that, like, you can have a black wife and not be racist. That triggers most conservatives, because they're like, how does that work? It's like, yeah, you like fucking black pussy and you love your wife because you've been fucking her for so long, but, like, you still despise her race and think her people are lazy, right? This is the problem with Steve Crowder's definition of white supremacy.
But when you look at them, they actually believe that socialism works, if not for the drain on the system, black people and Latinos. They go, if we didn't have black people and Latinos, we could do free health care. We could actually have it. We wouldn't have a deficit. Basically, we want big government. We just want, but it only works.
So he's describing Nazbols. He's, like, describing, of course we could have the big social programs if we didn't have the, deplorables in our society. It's funny that he says that, because, the vast majority of people on welfare receive federal benefits or subsidies are white people. And you can make the argument that that's based off of, the fact that there are more white people in our society. But, like, after black people per capita who are on welfare, and the reason they are on welfare, black people I should say, for a larger percentage, is because of historical materialism. I mean, if you enslave somebody for 200 years or something like that, of course, everybody who wasn't enslaved has a unfair advantage economically, especially in the capitalist system. But I digress from that point. After that, yeah, white people are the most people on welfare. So, I mean, wouldn't a white supremacist with this logic also want to get rid of white people? No, of course not, because that's not how white supremacists think. Of course, he's failing to, like, realize that, like, the right today is so collective, and you might be like, oh well, this is, like, kind of against your argument that the white supremacists are not, like, the far left. Culturally, they have nothing fucking in common. If someone's a Nazbol and believes in, like, statism and, like, left economic policies, but is, like, super fucking racist, like, okay, I mean, you're just someone who's an authoritarian. He's confusing authoritarianism with libertarianism. He doesn't understand that there's a left, a right, and an up and a down in the political world. He also mentioned that, like, immigrants not paying taxes. Well, Steve, maybe if we made immigration a little bit easier here, immigrants could become full citizens and pay all of their taxes instead of just portions of them. You ever thought about that, buddy?
If we eliminate minorities, right? We need a country for our own, and the truth is you have plenty of black countries.
He's also forgetting that white supremacists in this, like, utopia that they would have wouldn't, like, kill or remove all the black people. They would, like, reinstate some form of slavery in order to make the socialism work, so that people could be as lazy, white people could be as lazy as possible, and then have all of the benefits of a, rich and prosperous society. Kind of like Nazi Germany.
contributors in this country, and Latino contributors and white contributors. I understand that statistically, especially with Latino Americans, there are far more who don't pay taxes, who are here illegally, and that's the idea of a worldview of
Like I said earlier, let's make it easier for them to become citizens, Steve. Oh, wait, you're scared of brown people becoming the majority ethnic race in this world. That's right, that's right. So what is it? Are you pro the economy and immigrants paying their taxes, or are you just against people coming here in general, in specific people of color? I don't know. Seems kind of grifty, Steve. Are you doing this just for the money?
nation of ideas as opposed to a nation of people. However, it's the same thing. So you look at socialism, sort of comes around, and that's what the white supremacists believe. And you mentioned AOC, saying, well, why doesn't she ever bring up this idea of black babies, being aborted? Well, think about it. She, very similarly, believes that there's overpopulation and we shouldn't have children, and so they are a drain on the system. And so if
So he is he doesn't understand that there's a thing called a special carrying capacity. It's the idea that as a species we naturally understand, or even animals know, that they taper off and can stop producing, reproducing, because they're going to reach their carrying capacity. Not enough resources basically to make more things, right? And we as humans, we can quantify this shit and prepare for it, right? Better so than like animals. So he doesn't understand that there's going to be a natural population cap at around, I think it's either 9 or 10 billion people. So we still got a ways to go, and most of those births are going to be in countries like Nigeria and the Philippines and other developing nations, because those nations are underdeveloped because they're being exploited by capitalism and shit like that. The global south's being exploited, so therefore healthcare and education for women isn't as robust as it is here. So people, since the mortality rate is higher, people have to have 5 kids in order for at least 2 of 3 of them to actually survive. And there's always that offset chance that all 9 of your Nigerian babies survive. And then that's how you have these huge population booms in these countries that are still happening today because they're not industrialized. Look at Japan. Look at, Germany and Western Europe. Look at the United States. We have a 1.8 birth rate. We're barely making enough people to replace the parents that have these kids, right? Only reason our population is going up is because of Steve's... deplorables, the immigrants that don't pay taxes, right? So he's kind of he's engaging in bad faith arguments here, thinking that AOC, because she hasn't said abort black babies too, she thinks only white kids need to be aborted. Have as many. We need more people of color always at all times. No, I think AOC's more pro females having control over their bodies, and you know what I'm trying to say. Women should have control over their bodies, not this weird socialist agenda to cap off how many people are born in this country. Get the fuck out of here, Steve, you fucking grifty piece of shit. You're just assuming this shit. You're trying to inductively reason from her behavior that she's believes in these things. It's you fucking idiot. That's not how it works.
If you look at the Green New Deal and you look at what they talk about through access to women's health, what that really means is it's green friendly, it's eco friendly to ensure that women don't have babies. So let's make sure they have.
Well, with the American lifestyle, I mean, anybody can look this up. If everyone in the world lived like an American, we would have to have 4 Earths, resource-wise. So, yeah, we need to start being a little eco-friendly. No one's really saying stop having kids. That's just kind of happening. Even conservatives who live in rural fucking Iowa or Arkansas are very much in this boat where I want to live my life, don't really want to be tied down by the responsibility of a child. That's a completely different topic from environmentalism. I don't think geothermal plants and solar farms and public transport and high-speed rail are inherently trying to cap the amount of people born. I don't think anyone's being that altruistic about their fucking approach to climate change. Once again, bad faith, Steve. And what is this shit he's wearing? I'm just wondering, like, what the fuck this is. Like, he's wearing, like, this tactical vest. He's also very muscly looking. I want to know his gym routine, because with boulder shoulders like that, I mean, I wonder if he's on creatine. Too much too much pre-workout before his shows. I wonder what's in that mug. He's got some cool pipes there too. I wonder if he actually uses them. What is this? Anyways.
Have access to abortion, right? We could have socialism if not for the drains on the system. We could have a perfect...
Socialism inherently believes that there is no drain on the system. There needs to be a restructuring of the capitalist system that we live in. The authoritarian work structure is the bane of socialism, I should say. Like I said in the beginning, he doesn't understand that socialism is just the workers owning their means of production. No more wage slavery kind of deal, right? He doesn't understand that, yeah, we could still have, fundamentalist Christians, making abortion illegal and have a socialist state. He unironically doesn't understand that.
Environment, a utopia. If we just signed the Paris Accord, we wouldn't have these problems. Forget about China building record coal plants. We wouldn't have these...
I'm gonna ask this a lot with these grifty conservative tubers. What are you gonna do? What policies are you gonna do, Steve? What do you want to do about all those coal plants in China, brother? Oh wait, yeah, that's right. You don't have any because you don't believe in climate change. That's something he would say. He's like, climate change isn't human-caused. Climate change isn't real, so like, we don't really need to stop China. It's like, okay, forgot you're anti-human, even though that's your argument in this video that socialists are.
Problems if we just basically shut down the economy, built a high-speed rail, and gave free abortion.
Hey, shout out to high-speed rail. So wait, are you anti high-speed rail, Steve? Because I'm pretty sure the thousands of construction contractors within the United States would love a huge federal high-speed rail initiative, because that would be lots of money to be made for the working class. Isn't that right, Steve? Mr. Pro working class conservative. He unironically doesn't understand that, like, if the government spent a lot of money on like big programs like highways and like airports and seaports and like high-speed rail, he unironically like thinks like the government will just build this stuff and like no one will benefit from it. These huge projects are contracts that will get subbed out to fucking private contractors that will bring wealth and higher living standards to the communities that are involved with these projects. Like, I don't think he understands that, like, if there's no work for a construction contractor, all those construction workers kind of just sit around and don't get paid and like are just waiting for new work. I work in the construction industry. I'm very pro this approach of the government spending big money on construction projects, because it infrastructure is the bread and butter of every country. We have a D+ rating. What are you gonna do about that, Steve? What are you gonna do about it? Are you gonna keep ignoring the 100-year-old bridges that were built by communist General Secretary FDR back in the 30s by the CCC Corps? I almost said CCCP. By the CCC, the Civilian Conservation Corps. What are you going to do about these problems, Steve? If you're such a fucking asshole about them and don't want to make actually any real fucking arguments or even suggest any policies about them, why are you even talking about them? He's in whiny bitch baby crybaby snowflake mode right now. He's just complaining about grievances he has about like the society that is changing around him.
To everyone. By the way, a black baby has, again, 50-50 shot of being born or being aborted.
Whoa, brother. all probability is based around a 50-50 chance of something happening and not happening. There's a 50-50 chance that your perfectly normal, genetically perfect Aryan white baby, super Hitler baby is gonna, have the umbilical cord wrapped around its neck and get choked out on the way out. I mean, there's a chance that every child's gonna be a stillbirth or a fucking miscarriage. I mean, get the fuck out of here with that bullshit. And applying it to like just black people is outrageous. Once again, bad faith. He's BF Steve, dude.
Let's just get rid of the dead weight and we can have the left socialist utopia, green friendly, everyone can.
Well, isn't that the fundamental difference between white supremacists and then the far left? That we understand that we can actually make the idea of it work with the air quotes here, dead weight. That I mean, he's describing, once again, he's describing like this authoritarian approach and like, just comparing it utterly to just anything left on the political spectrum.
Can get abortions and we'll all be happy. And then you go to the white supremacists. We can have our utopia if we just get rid of the dead weight. Let's just have abortions for black people, kill anyone who isn't white, and then we can have the society that we want. And they come right back.
I wonder if the two black guys in the room with him are like, why is he wearing this tactical vest? They seemed a little uncomfortable in the beginning. I wonder if any of them are going to ask, like, why is he wearing this, like, chest piece, this, like, breastplate?
Back around in that, in one form or another, AOC, Bernie Sanders, who honeymooned in the USSR, still really up.
That's a grievance.
They are anti-people, just like the Green Movement is pro-Gaia and anti.
Okay, that's just sad that he doesn't understand like Gaia theory, the idea that we as organic beings interact with like our inorganic like surroundings, our environment. He doesn't understand like if you like cut down every tree, oxygen will start being depleted. Like this is like this. He unironically doesn't understand that like there will be a point where you catch the last fish, you will poison the last watering well, you will cut down the last tree. He thinks environmentalism is anti-people when it's the most people thing ever. Like, I mean, fuck, dude. He doesn't understand that like fucking climate change is gonna dry up the Middle East, and all those fucking Middle Easterners are gonna want to fucking come to the United States, and then we're gonna have a real fucking problem with immigration. It's like conservatives don't understand they should be the most pro-environmentalism, like Green New Deal people. They should want to stop environmentalism because it's going to drive so many POCs to the United States. It's just so sad to see them engage in these fucking. I almost said the R word earlier, but these mentally ill takes on the problems, because it's like usually things are connected in so many ways. Like, you bitch about immigrants not paying taxes, then make it easier for immigrants to come into the country. Oh, well, then they'll like take our jobs. No, you're just xenophobic and scared, even though these immigrants take the like most like desperate, dirty fucking jobs that no white person would ever want to work. Like, it's just it's back and forth with these people. I mean, I really don't understand how like 82,000 people like unironically, are connecting the dots with this shit.
Human being. My problem with socialism and far leftism and environmentalism is the same problem that I have with any form of racial supremacy, whether it be white supremacy or Black Lives Matter, by the way, is that it's not that it.
This in of itself makes no sense. Socialism, far leftism. I mean, what's your definition of far left, Steve? Like, is like a sock dem like as far left as a hive mind communist, or like a fucking Leninist or some shit? And then comparing that to environmentalism. I mean, fuck, dude, you have right-wing people that like actually like believe in science because they're not fascists, like Steve here, who's idiosyncratic and doesn't believe in like imperial fact or whatever. As a libertarian conservative, which I'm assuming he is, I would have to assume he believes that like climate change is natural. let me be frank, as a armchair historian, looking at how the Roman Empire in late antiquity got affected by natural forces of climate change. That is true, but I mean, if you look at per capita, or sorry, parts per million of the amount of nitrous oxide, nitrous dioxide, and CO2 and methane in the air right now, it's just astronomical. Like, you can look at the ice cores from Antarctica and Greenland. Like, if you do deny human caused climate change and the effects it's having right now, you're the anti-human.
It's not that it's pro-environment. It's not that it's pro-black people. In both hands, it's that they are distinctly anti-people.
Yep.
That's all it is. All right, we will see you next week. Thank you, Hodge Twins.
Okay, so this was just kind of painful to watch. It's sad to see that people actually believe in this shit. But whatever. Hopefully, I just kind of cleared up some of this is why this type of YouTuber, like Dave Rubin's, just like this guy, Ben Shapiro to an extent, these guys, they try to connect the dots in the worst way possible, and sadly people believe in them. So I think it's just my duty to kind of undo this bullshit, and so I'm just gonna see where it goes from here. See you guys around.